Me to the book of First Kings, chapter 18. I've been confronted with this particular passage, and I guess that's the word to use there is confronted. It's just, I've listened to two or three different messages in the last couple of weeks on it, and we talked a little bit about this passage on Wednesday night. It wasn't the crux of our conversation, but it was brought up nonetheless. And so this chapter, I love this chapter, chapter 18 and 19, and I'm Lord willing, I'll get to 19 without holding you too long. By the time I get through this, you'll probably be saying, "I wish he'd preached the message God told him, or that he had originally planned instead of this." But here in First Kings 18, the land of Israel, because of their sin, had been in a severe drought, and this drought had gone on for 3.5 years. There'd been no rain upon the land. There was people starving at this point in the land. They were running out of food because of this no rain that the Lord had brought upon the land because of their idolatry. Ahab and Jezebel were ruling in Israel at that time. Ahab was an ungodly king, and he followed after everything Jezebel told him. And Jezebel, of course, was his wife. She was the queen, but she led Ahab. She was the boss of Ahab, and Ahab did everything that Jezebel said. And so this was a trying time for Israel. This was a time when great trouble was upon them, and for the most part, uh, yes, there was no rain. Yes, the people were hungry. Yes, there was great tribulation in the land because of this, but it did not turn the people from their wickedness to God. They continued on in their strife. They continued on in that trouble. They continued on facing this hard time that they were in, and did not turn their face back to the Lord. They continued on in the wickedness, facing this very punishment that God had brought on them. And we begin here in verse number 1 of chapter 18. It came to pass after many days that the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, Go show thyself unto Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. God had not forgotten his people, and he had pronounced this judgment against them, but he was not going to let it go too long. He was going to give them relief. Even in their wickedness, God was going to give them relief. And so we see here this kindness, this grace of God, this mercy of God toward the people of Israel, even when they do not in any way deserve that. Sounds familiar, don't it? We experience His grace, we experience His mercy, we experience His kindness, and we do not deserve it. And yet He constantly is pouring out that grace, that mercy, and that goodness toward us. It says there in verse 2, Elijah went to show himself unto Ahab, and there was a sore famine in Samaria. And Ahab called Obadiah, which was the governor of his house. Now Obadiah feared the Lord greatly. And so this man is a servant in the house of Ahab. Now, this is not the Obadiah that we have, I don't believe it is anyway, that we have as the prophet Obadiah. That's some years later when he is given account to be the one that wrote that particular book. But this man's name was also Obadiah. He was the governor, the servant there in the house of Ahab. He was the one that was in charge of the running of Ahab's house. And this man is one who feared the Lord greatly. He knew the sin that was in his master. He knew the sin that was in Jezebel. He saw these things in them and recognized them, and he feared the Lord. He desired Israel, no doubt, to return unto the Lord. And it tells us here, for it was so. This is how the fear of the Lord was seen in Obadiah. This is why God would record this concerning Obadiah here, was because of verse 4. For it was so when Jezebel cut off the prophets of the Lord that Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50 in a cave and fed them bread and water. Jezebel is on a rampage, and it is her desire to wipe out the last vestige of those that would dare declare the name of God in the land of Israel. And Obadiah knows of these plans, and he himself goes and hides 100 of the prophets of God, rather. I'm jumping ahead of myself. 100 of the prophets of God, and hides them in a cave to protect them, and feeds them, provides for them to keep them from Jezebel's wrath. And Ahab said unto Obadiah, verse number 5, go into the land, unto all fountains of water, and to all brooks, peradventure we may find grass to save the horses and mules alive, and we lose not all the beasts. He sends Obadiah out. Go find us someplace where there's still water that's watering the ground, that we are able maybe to save our flocks. So they divided the land between them to pass throughout it. Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went another way by himself, just looking for some green spot that maybe would offer them some sustenance. Wouldn't it make more sense to turn back to the Lord? Wouldn't it make all the more sense to say, Lord, forgive us for this wickedness that we brought into your land? Lord, give us repentance that we might turn to you. Wouldn't it make more sense? They go 3 years, 3.5 years here. They go in this state where there is no water. They were told that that's the reason the water had not come. It's the reason it did not rain, because of the wickedness of Israel, and they refused to turn to the Lord. So they're out looking for a green spot. Verse 7, it says, and as Obadiah was in the way, behold, Elijah met him. And he knew him, fell on his face, and said, art thou that my Lord Elijah? So here God sends Elijah to Ahab. Elijah's on his way to Ahab and comes across Obadiah, the governor of Elijah's house, or the governor of Ahab's house, rather. And he answered him, I am. Go tell thy Lord, behold, Elijah is here. And Obadiah's answer here in verse 9, he says, what have I sinned, that thou wouldest deliver thy servant unto the hand of Ahab to slay me? You don't know what you're asking me to do, Elijah. Why are you asking me? Why are you giving me this job? Do you not understand how great this is, this thing you're asking me to do? That this is a heavy burden, he says, that you're putting on me. Because he says in verse 10, as the Lord thy God liveth, there is no nation or kingdom whether my Lord hath not sent to seek thee. And when they said, he is not there, he took an oath of the kingdom and the nation that they found thee not. And thou sayest, go tell thy Lord, behold, Elijah is here, and it shall come to pass, as soon as I am gone from thee, that the Spirit of the Lord shall carry thee whither I know not. And so when I come and tell Ahab, and he cannot find thee, he shall slay me. But I, thy servant, fear the Lord from my youth. So he says that why are you sending me? Because I don't know if you're going to still be here when I go get Ahab and tell him you're here, because he's looked for you everywhere. We went all over the countryside looking for you, and we hear that you're there in this place, and we get there and you're not there. And we hear that you're over here, and we get over there and you're not there. And here you're telling me to go and tell Ahab that you're here, and I go and tell him you're here, and then you get caught away by the Lord take you away, and we get here, and then you're not here. He said, Ahab's going to take it out on me. And so this is a heavy thing that you're calling me to do. But he tells him here that I, thy servant, fear the Lord from my youth. Was it not told my Lord what I did when Jezebel slew the prophets of the Lord, how I hid 100 men of the Lord's prophet by 50 in a cave and fed them with bread and water? And now thou sayest, go tell thy Lord, behold, Elijah is here, and he shall slay me. He said, I'm trying to serve the Lord. I've even proven my service to the Lord, he says, but you're putting me in a precarious situation. This is uncomfortable for me to be put in this place. And Elijah said to him, as the Lord of hosts liveth, before whom I stand, I will surely show myself unto him today. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. And it came to pass when Ahab saw Elijah, hey, Elijah was still there. Obadiah was safe. He was still in place. And Ahab said unto him, art thou he that troubleth Israel? Here, Elijah is the one that was proclaiming to them the righteousness of God and the holiness of God. Elijah was the one that was declaring to them their own sin and their wickedness before God. Elijah was the one that was declaring to them that they needed to repent and turn back to God and follow him and serve him as before. And yet he is the one that is accused of troubling Israel. He is the one that is blamed for the problems. He is the one that is blamed because of the strife that is come upon the land. Art thou he that troubleth Israel? And Elijah's answer is, he answered, I have not troubled Israel, but thou and thy father's house, in that ye have forsaken the commandments of the Lord, and thou hast followed Balaam. Now therefore send and gather to me all Israel unto Mount Carmel. And the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the groves 400, which eat at Jezebel's table. So Ahab sent all the children of Israel, and gathered the prophets together unto Mount Carmel. So the call goes out. Y'all show up at Mount Carmel, which is on the northwest corner of Israel. It's overlooking the Mediterranean Sea there, and he says, y'all show up there at Mount Carmel. Elijah wants to see us. So they call Israel out to this mountain. Not only do they call Israel out, but the prophets of Baal, even those that eat at Jezebel's table, are called to come as well to meet Elijah. Verse 21, Elijah came unto all the people and said, how long halt ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. This is the thing that they did in Israel. And this carried on throughout, after Elijah's day, carried on throughout the history of particularly the northern tribes, and we find it bleeding over into the southern tribes as well, in Judah and Benjamin later on, as the different kings were brought in and out of the land there. But they had a a worship of God going on. They had the holy place of God. They had the temple that they would come in and worship before the throne of God there, and they would conduct the sacrifices, and they went through all the prescribed rituals that the scriptures declared, and then they would worship him there on the Sabbath day, and they would carry out all of these functions of the priesthood and so on. And then they would turn around on the next day and they would go up to the groves and they would sacrifice to Baal there. And this was a problem throughout Israel, and it would come into the southern tribes as well, in which they were trying to divide their worship between God and between the gods of the land. They were trying to appease both, trying to get privileges from both of these gods, trying to find some way that they would get God to bless them and find another way that maybe Baal would bless them over here. The people were dividing their worship, dividing their devotion, and the reality is when you divide your worship and you divide your devotion from God with anything else, you are not worshiping God. You've sold yourself a lie if you think you can worship God a little here and worship whatever else you want to over here. Man does this even today. We may not have gods raised up before us. We may not have these idols raised up, but we'll worship our money. We'll worship our possessions. We'll worship the things that are in this world around us, and we put so much of our attention on those things and so very little attention on the things of God. Our idolatry truly is, as the scripture declares to us in the New Testament, it is our covetousness, our seeking after things, our want and our lust for the stuff of this world instead of our God. The song we sang this morning, Complete in Thee, says, no good thing is withheld from me because Jesus becomes my all. And because he is my everything, because he is all I need, he becomes all I want. It's Christ. And that's what our worship to him is to be about. That's what our devotion is to be about. It's to be all about him. It's to have him in our lives. It's to be living for him every day. So much of our worship is divided. So much of it is divided with the things of this world. And this is what Elijah is showing unto not only Ahab, but even unto the people here, as he declares that to them in verse 21. How long halt ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. Then said Elijah unto all the people, even I only, remain a prophet of the Lord. But Baal's prophets are 450 men. Elijah, and for whatever reason here, has declared he's the only one still standing for God. That was not the case, as the Lord confronts him with that in the next chapter, but this is how Elijah felt in this moment. I'm all by myself, and the rest of you are nothing but a bunch of heathens. That was his mindset there. So he says these prophets of Baal had come up, these 450. He said, let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on the wood, and put no fire under. And I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on wood, and put it on fire under. And call ye on the name of your gods. It's more than just Baal they were worshiping, you see. And I will call on the name of the Lord. And the God that answereth by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and said, It is well spoken. That sounds like a good deal. We'll just see which God answers. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered, and they leaped upon the altar which was made. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, Cry aloud, for he is a God. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or is in a journey, or peradventure he sleepeth and must be awake. Baal's busy right now. Y'all need to holler a little louder. Maybe he can hear. You need to scream just a little bit more. You need to do a little bit more to wake him up. And he's mocking these 450 as they are crying out for Baal, praying to him to rain down fire. When they cried aloud and cut themselves after their manner with knives and lancets till the blood gushed out upon them.